Tonight it's Essex TV, and we're talking about the BBC Three documentary Skin, where young patients come together at a skin clinic to share their stories, hoping to find treatments that can change their lives. So important, because if you've got something like that, you just want it to be a quicker process to get your day underway. It can take a long time to get ready. I was watching a little bit of it, actually. Maybe you've got something like eczema, psoriasis. If you do, how are you finding it? I bet it's really difficult. And I don't imagine that people talk about it that much. Well, we're going to change that tonight. It can be annoying. So our number is 0800 111 40 41. You don't have to come on air. Just let us know how you're coping with it. Tonight we've got a few specialists based in Essex. We're talking to a man who suffered with eczema when he was younger and wrote a book educating young people on the condition. First, though, here's a bit of that programme I was mentioning, and this is Amy's story.
Do you get quite self-conscious about it because it's on your face?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think you would be as self-conscious if it was on your body?
I feel like I'd be less self-conscious if it was like on my arm or my leg, because it is on my face. It is a massive insecurity, like when meeting like guys and things.
When I was growing up, I always knew that I was different to other children. My parents were just so good because they were like, you were born differently because you're special. But some people can say mean things like, oh, what have you done? Have you walked into a door? No, I haven't actually. It's a birthmark. There's all different kinds of birthmark though, but mine's a port wine stain. I think it's when I look like maybe spilt port. There you go. I do feel maybe in time it has got a little bit darker. I just want to find advice.
And it's that advice that's also important, and it can be a struggle to get the courage together to actually go to somebody and to talk about it. Well, Julie Scott is the owner and nurse practitioner at Facial Aesthetics in Whittam, and Julie joins us this evening. Hi, Julie.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Really well, thank you. How are you doing tonight?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Glad to hear it, and thank you for coming on today. I think it's such an important issue that I think is becoming in people's, conversations and minds at the moment because of this documentary called Skin on BBC Three. Just tell us a bit, firstly, about facial aesthetics. What does that actually mean?
Of course, absolutely. So Facial Aesthetics is the name of my company. I have a clinic here, as you said, in Whittam, and facial aesthetics, I guess, is a term given to aesthetic procedures, but we're so much more than that. I've got nearly 2 decades of experience, and 14 of those years were as a plastic surgery nurse. So this program really kind of touches my heart because for many years I nursed patients undergoing procedures to, I guess, really not only correct trauma but also congenital defects. So the girl you just introed with the port wine stain, that's something that was my background. But for the last 15 years or so, I've been running a skin clinic here, and we see an array of patients coming through our door, from teenagers up into their 80s with skin concerns, whether it be acne, rosacea, the aging process, even into menopause. So we have the huge pleasure of having people come to see us that are anxious, they're worried, they're concerned, they feel vulnerable, and they entrust those concerns with us, and it's an absolute honour to be able to help them.
Do you find that people put it off for a while, the actual initiation of that first conversation?
It's a really interesting question. And yes, I think a lot of people do. I think that in the first instance, we get a lot of parents that sometimes contact us first on behalf of maybe their teenage son or daughter. And that's wonderful because they tend to come with a parent or a guardian. But yes, I think, I think we all procrastinate by nature. I think people are so afraid of being judged, and sometimes it's through worry and concern that it's something maybe more sinister than it is, or they just feel embarrassed about conveying an insecurity that they have. So they do put it off. And I think that there's some research out there somewhere that, people can take anything up to 2 years before they feel brave enough to pick up the phone. And we know that. So we are really kind of very aware of that and make sure that from the second that they contact us, they have my amazing colleague answering the phone. And I think that we get that across from the beginning, don't be afraid. Come and let us see you. Let us look at your skin, scan you. And if it's something we can't deal with, we have an amazing multidisciplinary team that work with us. So I have all sorts of also specialists that I can refer to. But most of the time we can, and we love helping.
And something like psoriasis on the skin, does that tend to be found in younger people? Or because I could just imagine if you're a young person, let's say, and you've got this rash thing and you don't really want to tell anybody about it, you might think you're the only one. You might think, oh, this is what an older person's kind of thing, but it's not at all, is it?
Not at all. I mean, psoriasis is certainly something that is there's a genetic hereditary link, and it can be something that people grow out of as they go through life. But it can be something that can be almost exacerbated, especially during teenage years, because it can be one of the triggers can be stress. And there's a type of psoriasis that people can actually just have a huge bout of it and then it can go away. So I think that I do feel that younger people tend to feel embarrassed about it and therefore don't always seek the help that they need. And the sad thing is that so many of these skin conditions can be helped so easily. I wish more people, and I think it's wonderful this program is bringing things to the fore and awareness. It's fantastic because it's starting to be discussed and talked about, and that's what we need, these things to be normalized and for people going through it not feel stigmatized by them.
I was watching somebody earlier today, I think it was on BBC Breakfast actually, talking about their struggle with eczema and the fact that the start of their day was an hour and a half of just getting ready and putting clothes on. And that was from moisturising to, they were saying like they had to change the sheets almost every day, that kind of thing. Just a really long process from start to finish. And I guess, what sort of things can you do to help people maybe make that a bit shorter? Because it must be such a burden on every single day.
Most definitely, and how devastating, to have, sometimes it's hard for all of us to get out of bed and imagine having to face those challenges every day. And I think that the simple advice is to not let it get to that point. I think that there's so many other interventions that can be carried out and taken so that it doesn't become that cycle. I think that the message is get help sooner. And most of these things are prevention, Chris. It's about finding out what your triggers are, because a lot of these are, I guess, what we call kind of conditions that will always be there. Sometimes you do grow out of these kind of atopic type conditions and sometimes not, but it's finding out what your triggers are and being able to manage them. It's just about getting that holistic approach, talking about to nutritionists about I guess, what you're putting into your body, what you're using on your skin, get really professional advice and find out what's the best things for you. So it's looking at it in a holistic way, but don't struggle. Don't just kind of, have to search on Google. Go and see experts and get that expert advice. And it's out there and most of it's free. Most people, I love nothing more than, for example, a patient that comes to me that's got acneic skin and they're really suffering physically and psychologically, and just to kind of move forward with their journey and to improve their skin, the confidence that can give people. So I think my resounding message is don't suffer in silence. Go and speak to someone that you feel comfortable doing and they have the knowledge and the skill set to help you.
From vague memory, does atopic means that your immune system's doing something it shouldn't be doing? Is that right?
Yeah, it's often a term that's used in kind of children and growing up. And atopic children tend to be those that tend to, when they're much, much younger, they suffer with very sensitive skin, probably eczema, sometimes asthma, those type of conditions. And they often can have allergies that go hand in hand. So, you can have one isolated condition, and a lot of these conditions you can grow out of, not always, but often one may hang around into adulthood, but again, with careful management, doesn't have to become a problem. And I think that's the key, is to find out what works for you and get that support and get that guidance.
And Julie, you're at facialaesthetics.co.uk. I know you have information on there as well if people want to kind of think about perhaps looking into something like this, and I imagine it's, as you say, a reasonably straightforward process.
Yes, I mean, anybody that contacts us, it's interesting because when I started facial aesthetics back in the day, I was tending to treat patients that had just anti-aging concerns. And what's so lovely is that my business has really evolved certainly in the last 10, 15 years, whereby patients are sending their sons and daughters predominantly with acneic issues, but we see patients with rosacea. Everybody that comes through our door, we obviously treat with the utmost respect, but that, the first thing is we get their skin into what we call an observe. So we analyze their skin and get a really close look at it. And then we sit down and work out what would be the best route for them, looking at their lifestyle and, the what they're prepared and commitment. And then it may be a mixture of home care that we prescribe for them. I'm a nurse prescriber. And it may be also, coming in and seeing our esthetician and having treatments, medical facials that we can offer. And sometimes it needs my helping hand as well in more of the invasive treatments. But everybody's treated as an individual, and everybody gets that advice. And I guess, and we offer that time freely. We offer a consultation, and because I'm passionate about helping people with their skin, and I don't feel anyone should ever feel that they've got to hide away. That breaks my heart. So
no, absolutely. And I think it's
really
right.
Shouldn't have to.
I think it's right that we are talking about it today and at length as well, which I'm really glad that we are. And it sounds like everyone is kind of there at that very first initial stage. Julie, thank you so much for joining us. Julie Scott there, who's the owner and nurse prescriber at Facial Aesthetics in Witham.